Delegates at a global summit on trade in endangered species are set to decide whether to back a proposal to protect sharks. The motion would add many types of sharks to the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. The Shark Initiative is one of the most discussed at this year's summit in Panama, but other kinds of wildlife trade are also in focus.
Like rhinoceros horns or elephant tusks, hippopotamus teeth are prized as ivory for jewelry or knife handles. Illegal hunting is already believed to have wiped out hippo populations in some African countries. In response, 10 African nations at the convention in Panama have tabled a proposal for a global trade ban on hippopotamus products. Species protection is an urgent task, with scientists warning of the danger of a new period of mass extinction. The last time such an event happened was 66 million years ago. Ahead of the convention, the EU issued a revised action plan, stepping up its fight against wildlife trafficking. But the bloc was sharply criticised for its rejection of a full commercial ban on hippo products. Other species like glass frogs, rays, and sharks were luckier. 60 species of sharks will be shielded by international trade regulations if the decision is signed on Friday night. So far, few shark species have been singled out for protection. The animals are hunted for their fins and meat and are traded internationally. Several species are critically endangered or already threatened with extinction. Sharks and rays play an indispensable role in marine ecosystems. Experts say a global pact to protect them would boost the health of the world's oceans.
Well, let's get more from DW reporter Beatrice Christoforo. Beatrice, let's start with the example of sharks in our report. We mentioned that there's an effort to get a global agreement on protecting sharks because they're considered vital to the ecosystem. But if sharks are really so important, so vital to the ecosystem, why aren't they protected already?
Historically, it's been really hard to regulate the trade on sharks and rays because there was not really a lot of data on their populations. Because international fisheries were tracking more like tuna and other migratory species and didn't really have sharks on their radar that much. Now this has changed. The data has become better and it's become clear. Many of these species are at risk of extinction from overfishing, and something needs to be done about it urgently.
Right. The agreements at this conference in Panama, of course, it sounds important, protecting all of these species, not just animals, but plants too, that are considered vital for the planet's biodiversity and our future. Will these agreements work?
There have been plenty of examples of when they did work really well. So, for example, 30 years ago, a ban was imposed on the international trade of ivory. And for a long time, it was successful. The poaching in Africa went down, the prices of ivory plummeted. But just because something is legally binding to the countries that are part of this conference doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to get implemented or respected. And so there have also been other cases, for example, the poaching of rhino horn. We see that there's still very alarming rates of that. So the frustrating answer is that with the decisions made at this conference, of course, we just have to wait and see how it plays out.
Let's take another example, hippos. As we saw in our report, the EU is not supporting a ban on hippo ivory. What are reactions to that in Africa?
Well, West African nations are very angry and, quite frankly, incredulous that the EU would stand in the way of a proposal that could protect species that are native to these countries, the hippo, because the EU bloc is very, very influential, and its decision can make or break a proposal. In this case, it's likely that that these countries are going to come out empty-handed without an international agreement because of EU opposition. And critics are honestly saying that it might be hypocritical because the EU is going against its own action plan to battle wildlife trafficking and against recommendations from its own parliament as well.
A lot of politics there. Do you get the feeling that the window of opportunity for Sorry, I was just one final question. Do you get the do you get the impression that the window of opportunity for protecting endangered species and assuring the future of the planet's biodiversity, that the window of that opportunity is closing?
It definitely is, because experts are saying that we are going through the 6th mass extinction, which means that just in the next few decades, there are about 1 million plant and animal species at the risk of going extinct.
Oh.
So yeah, this is urgent.
Beatrice, thank you so much. That was Beatrice Cristoforo, one of our reporters working on environmental issues.